Hey guys. October's joining us today until she's over it and wants to run away. She just woke up from a nap. I don't know if you guys can hear her purring. She's definitely a lot chunkier since the last time I showed her on camera. Most of you guys can hear her purr. Okay. I just did something to scare her. But if you guys can hear her like jingling, that's what that is. So, I apologize. I'm so sorry for being gone. I think I'm not sure when you'll see this video, but I think it's been about 3 weeks since I've posted, and I was pretty regularly posting once a week. But I don't have like a super great excuse. Basically, we're moving. Everything behind me, that wall back there, that's where I used to sit and film. We're moving in 2 weeks. And a lot of furniture has been sold, a lot of things I've gotten rid of, and life has been really hectic. So right now, I'm filming with this on top of like a basket upside down with a blanket on top in front of the door, sitting on the floor. It's a situation. But I wanted to film a couple videos for you guys before we move. I've talked about it before, but our move is going to be pretty temporary, and we're moving again in like 3 months. So a little bit of a whirlwind for the spring and summer. Anyways, let's get into it. So this is your reminder to go get a glass of water before you watch this video. Drink your water. I'm horrible with that, so I shouldn't really be giving pointers, but anyways. Okay, as always, I'm gonna light my incense. This is like kind of low, so I have to like slouch to be in the frame. Anyways, as I'm sure you can tell from the title, I'm going to be going over my spring reads, my winter spring wrap up. I believe I did my last wrap up in January, so this is everything I've read in like the last 3-ish months. Since basically like since the start of the year. So let's just get into it. I will link my last wrap up below if you want to check out some other things I was reading. There have been a couple of books that I'm not going to show that I started, couldn't get into, and just put down, so those wasted some of my time. And I do have to do a lot of like reading for school and stuff, so that being said, there's a pretty fair amount of books here, so let's get started. Okay, I have them in order of like the first book I read at the beginning of the year to like the one I just finished like 2 days ago. So the details on these might be a little fuzzy, but let's go. Okay. So the first book is The Snowman by literally fantastic. I love this book. It took me a really long time to get through it, considering the length of it. Well, I don't know why. It took me a long time to get into it. Once I was into it, I'll go to it. let me see how many pages it is. 384. So it's not like, it's not a huge book, but there's a lot going on. It's a little dense. It is translated from Swedish? Oh no, Norwegian. Translated from Norwegian. Again, this book was a recommendation by ASMR Mayth. If you're not familiar with her, go check her out. I will link her channel below. But literally loved this book so much. So it's like definitely like a detective, you know, serial killer mystery. You'll notice a theme. A lot of these books are like mysteries or crime because that's what I like. I'm gonna read the little thing here. Internationally acclaimed crime writer Joe. Sorry. Let's try again. Internationally acclaimed crime writer Joe Nesbo's anti-hero police investigator Harry Hole is back. Yes, his name is Harry Hole. In a bone-chilling thriller that will take Hole to the brink of insanity. Also real quick, apparently there's like several of these Harry Hole books, but I guess they don't have to be read in order. I think there's like 7 or 8, and they're all independent stories featuring the same protagonist. This is the only one I've read. I'm not sure if I'm going to read more, but you don't have to read them later. Okay. Oslo in November. The first snow of the season has fallen. A boy named Jonas wakes in the night to find his mother gone. Out his window in the cold moonlight, he sees the snowman that inexplicably appeared in the yard earlier in the day. Around its neck is his mother's pink scarf. Hole suspects a link between a menacing letter he's received and the disappearance of Jonas's mother, and of perhaps a dozen other women, all of whom went missing on the day of a first snowfall. As his investigation deepens, something else emerges. He is becoming a pawn in an increasingly terrifying game whose rules are devised and constantly revised by the killer. So, yeah, this is definitely about, like, a serial killer, but he's, like, messing with the detective and, like, taunting him. There's a lot of, like, subplots and flashbacks, and it's just, like, you really get to know the characters. I loved it so much that I made my boyfriend read it right after I finished, which is a common theme. I think I said that in one of the other videos too. And he tore through this in like 2 or 3 days. I couldn't stop talking about it. So I would actually, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5, and I would give it a 5, but it was a little bit slow to get into. Once I got into it, I loved it. But if you read that, I'm gonna give it like 50-60 pages pretty quick. So she's hard to get into, and it is translated, and mostly it's fine, but a lot of the names and locations and stuff are just like you kind of just stumble on them a little bit. Anyways, loved this one. Next, this one is called Three by Lisa. Anyways, this one is kind of, I'm not going to read the like inscription or the summary because it's long. It's sort of fiction. No, I mean it's non-fiction. Yeah, here I'll read just like the, not the summary, but just like the tidbit about the book. It thrills us and it torments us. It controls our thoughts, destroys our lives, and it's all we live for. Yet we almost never speak of it, and as a buried force in our lives, desire remains largely unexplored until now. Over the past 8 years, journalist Lisa Tadeo has driven across the country 6 times to embed herself with ordinary women from different regions and backgrounds. The result, 3 women, is the deepest nonfiction portrait of desire ever written and one of the most anticipated books of the year. So, my friend recommended and lent this book to me, but I've heard it talked about before, and it really just follows, just like she says, 3 totally different women, totally different journeys, and it's kind of all about sex, desire, their lives, what they go through. There's one, I don't want to say character because it's nonfiction, so I guess there's one woman who is in sort of like a loveless marriage. She's lacking desire and romance. There's one teenage high school student who has something with a teacher, and there is one who is in a happy marriage that's a bit of like an open marriage. And I don't remember the ages because again it's been a while, but like the one is a teenager, the first one I mentioned who's in sort of a loveless marriage, she's a mom, I would guess maybe in her 40s or early 50s, and then the last woman who's sort of in the open marriage I would say is maybe in her early 30s. So I feel like any woman, or not woman, if you're not a woman and you still, if this interests you, read it, but I guess I was going to say any woman, I feel like can relate to this book in different parts of their lives. It really just talks about being a woman, desire, sex, sort of societal standards and things. Just a fantastic book. And now that I'm reading this, did I talk about this in my last did I talk about this in my last video? I might have. Anyways, obviously I love it. Great book. I read it very quickly. It's about, I want to say like 350 pages. Let's see. Okay, 306 pages. It's fantastic. Love it. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5. I really, really liked this book. I really was able to connect to it, and I feel like this is something I could read again in 10 years and totally connect to it in a different way. But yeah, loved it. Fantastic. 5 stars. Okay. The next book is Sweet Bitter, Sweet Bitter, Sweet Bitter by Stephanie Danler. Okay, don't mind me just taking some little thumbnails. Sweet Bitter. So this was also recommended by ASMR Mayth, or at least that's where I first heard of it. I'm also not going to read this one because it's long, but it's basically about a young woman in her early 20s. What's her name? Tess. Again, it's been a couple months. Tess, and she moves to New York City from what I believe is sort of like a small town, nowhere like notable. She moves to New York City completely on her own, doesn't know anybody, and she finds work at this pretty upscale restaurant in the city. And she's never worked in a restaurant, but she works her way up from busser to server basically. And I would just say anybody that's ever worked in a restaurant, has ever been a server, would like this book. Especially if you're young and if you worked in a restaurant full time, it just really goes through, how all the different staff in a restaurant sort of connect, all of the crazy drama and things that go on in the restaurant. It also takes you through kind of like young people living in New York City and, being broke and going out and getting drunk, and it just is really like this, this girl sort of like transitioning to a woman and finding her way in the world, and it just is, again, a lot of really well developed characters that feel relatable. I laughed, I cried. It's just one of those sort of like all-encompassing, it's just a great book. I believe, and this is another one I finished pretty quickly, 350 52 pages. The main character, Tess, is really, really likable. You want to like her, you want to be her, but also feels really like relatable girl next door kind of, if that makes sense. Like you love her, you want to be her, but you can connect with her as well. Fantastic book. Again, if you've worked in a restaurant, you definitely will. There's definitely some funnies in here for sure. Okay. Oh, 4 out of 5. Okay. Next is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. This is not something I normally would have picked. It was on the New York Times bestseller list, which is the New York Times best sellers list, if I could speak. And that's where I get a lot of inspiration. I kind of go through those every year, and anything that sounds interesting or sticks out to me, I put on my reading list. Sorry, I just walked in the camera. And this seemed really different than anything I'd ever picked. I am going to read the little bit about it. Kiko has never fit in, neither in her family nor in school, but when at the age of 18 she begins working at the Hiromachi Ranch Smile Mart, she finds peace and purpose in her life. In the store, unlike anywhere else, she understands the rules of social interaction. Many are laid out line by line in the store's manual, and she does her best to copy the dress, mannerisms, and speech of her colleagues, playing the part of a normal person excellently, more or less. Kiko is very happy with the people close to her, from her family to her coworkers, increasingly pressure her to find a husband and to start a proper career, prompting her to take desperate action. So, Kiko is, well, they don't explicitly say, but I'm definitely going to go out and say that she is autistic. She has autism. She's 36 years old, and she has just always worked in this convenience store because there's no rules. She knows exactly what she's supposed to say, how she's supposed to be. She can study the mannerisms of the people that work there to learn how best to interact with them. And yeah, basically, like it said, everybody's really trying to pressure her to get out and do something different, to get married, settle down. And it definitely takes a really interesting turn. It's definitely like a lighthearted read, but if you kind of read more into it, it definitely has somewhat of like a depth to it, and it's really cool because it sort of puts you in the perspective of someone who isn't neurotypical, and I think it's a really eye-opening read, and I mean I wouldn't recommend it to everybody just because, like, personally it's not really my style. I mean, it's only 163 pages, so it's little, and like it's like the size of my hands. I didn't love it, I didn't like hate it. I finished it. It was interesting, but I guess I don't really get what the fuss is about, if that makes sense. Everybody talks about how amazing it's an international bestseller. It's translated from Japanese, I believe. Yes, English language debut. Okay. Or did she write it in English or was it translated? I'm not sure. Anyways, I didn't love it. Yeah, translated from Japanese. But it's interesting. If you have any interest, like if it sounds interesting to you, I would definitely pick it up. It's a really short read, so even if you don't love it, it'd be pretty easy to finish. Yeah, some bases on the back. What a weird and wonderful and deeply satisfying book. Yeah, I wouldn't call it deeply satisfying, but it is a little weird. but I enjoyed it. It was decent. I would give it like a 2.5 out of 5, right in the middle, average. Good enough to finish, but nothing I'll read again or recommend to anybody. So that's Convenience Store Woman. Okay, next, quite the opposite rating and reaction, is Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. I would imagine pretty much everybody's heard of this, especially if you're a reader. Yes, this is the woman who wrote Gone Girl, which again, everybody's heard of Gone Girl, even if you're not a reader. You've seen the movie, I'm sure. And I know that this is an HBO series, which I did watch following the book, which was honestly every bit as good as the book, which I feel like can't be said about a lot of movies and series. Anyways, beside the point, I am going to read the back before I talk about my thoughts. Fresh from a brief stay at a psych hospital, reporter Camille Preaker faces a troubling assignment. She must return to her tiny hometown to cover the murders of 2 preteen girls. For years, Camille has hardly spoken to her neurotic, hypochondriac mother or to the half-sister she barely knows, a beautiful 13-year-old with an eerie grip on the town. Now, installed in her old bedroom in her family's Victorian mansion, Camille finds herself identifying with the young victims a bit too strongly. Dogged by her own demons, she must unravel the psychological puzzle of her own past if she wants to get to the story and survive this homecoming. I just have to say, this woman, Gillian Flynn, is such a talented, amazing writer. Gone Girl was fantastic, and I honestly think this was even better. I know it says right on there that she wrote Gone Girl. But this book, I tore through it in less than 24 hours. Which pretty much all of these books, almost all of these books I've talked about, I read very quickly because I literally loved them so much. And this one's 254 pages. It's just fantastic. It's like takes place in this southern, I want to say somewhere in Georgia, I'm not positive. It's like this southern town, and everyone's just so proper. That was a horrible accent, but everyone's just so proper. And oh my goodness, Camille, you shouldn't write about such horrible things. Stuff like that. And everybody's got secrets. And it's just very like drama, crime. She's a reporter. Like, again, a lot of these books are kind of similar. Actually, the next book I'm going to talk about is like a similar sort of setting. But I love that, like, small town, lots of secrets, tormented by a killer, mystery type of book. So if you have any recommendations that are similar to what I'm talking about, please leave them below. But this was just, I'll definitely read this again at some point. I get pretty much all of my books from the library, so that way my entire book collection is all books that I either plan on reading in the next year, have read and absolutely loved. Any book that I have, like, I don't keep anything that I don't love, so my whole library is all stuff that I want to read again, or books that are like my favorites. That's just how I roll. I don't want to buy a book and then not like it, and then it's like I spent $20 on this book and didn't like it, and now what? So anyways, I'll probably end up purchasing this to have in my collection. And the HBO show I watched, again, I think it's 8-hour-long episodes. Those HBO show series are. It's just the one season. Pretty bit, like, very closely follows the book. I almost noticed like a few lines that I think were like directly from the book, and it follows the book like to a T. It's perfect. It's got Amy Adams, and I can't think of the woman that plays the mom. It doesn't matter. It's fantastic. This is a 5 out of 5. I definitely recommend to anyone, and will read again for sure. Loved it. Sharp Objects. Next book. Oh, this is a big one. Not really. It's kind of The Southern Book Club's Guide to slaying vampires. Like get greedy, have drinks. Okay. This is on the New York Times bestsellers list. Like a lot of these books that I previously mentioned are. And really I was just intrigued. I was like, what on earth? It sounds kind of like it'd be like kitschy, and like it seemed like it was going to be that genre that's kind of like that horror comedy, which I'm not really a fan of in books or in movies. So I mean I got it from the library, so I'm like, yeah, we'll try it, but it sounded really strange. I personally am very into vampires, so I was like, you know, it's got crime, it's got vampires, it has everything I like, you know, it'll probably be good. I'm gonna read the inside of it and then tell you my thoughts. Patricia Campbell's life has never felt smaller. Her husband is a workaholic, her teenage kids have their own lives, her senile mother-in-law needs constant care, and she's always a step behind on her endless to-do list. The only thing keeping her sane is her book club, a close-knit group of Charleston women united by their love of true crime. At these meetings, they are as likely to talk about the Manson family as they are about their own families. One evening after book club, Patricia is viciously attacked by an elderly neighbor, bringing the neighbor's handsome nephew, James Harris, into her life. James is well-traveled and well-read, and he makes Patricia feel things she hasn't felt in years. But when children on the other side of town go missing, their deaths written off by local police, Patricia has reason to believe James Harris is more of a Bundy than a Brad Pitt. The real problem? James is a monster of a different kind, and Patricia has already invited him in. Little by little, James will insinuate himself into Patricia's life and try to take everything she took for granted, including the book club, but she won't surrender without a fight in this blood-soaked tale of neighborly kindness gone wrong. So, as I mentioned with Sharp Objects, southern town, people go missing, everybody's neighbors watches out for one another, and crime. Obviously that's what I like. I like what I like. Fantastic, amazing. This book was weird. Like, there were a lot of surprises in this book, a lot of kind of funny, humor-filled moments. Again, I read this one really fast, and what's really interesting to me, so it's from Patricia's point of view, and it's about this group of 5 women that live in the neighborhood that have a book club. It's written by a man, but it's like it really seems like it's from the perspective of a woman, so he did an excellent job. I think it's about 400 pages, it's a little longer. Yep. Wow, 404. Yeah. Super unexpected, tons of twists and turns. This was so good. Just so different than anything I've ever read. Like, it has that, the small town charm and the crime, but then there's like vampire stuff happening. Wild, but I loved it. I might buy this one too. I don't know if I'd read it again, just because that's a lot. But definitely a good one. I really read a lot of good books in the last couple of months. I will give this one a 4.5 out of 5. Just like the Snowman. Oh, loved it. I would recommend this one if you like drama, if the idea of like a bunch of housewives in a book club, talking shit, but also like weighing in on like serial killers. If you like that kind of thing and you like vampires, this is it. This is the book for you. Okay. I have 2 more. Sorry, this is kind of long. Okay. Next, I have The Cousins by Karen M. McManus. I've been making this into a show. This one I can just tell you about without reading the summary because, well, actually, in the last week, I have finished this and read this book and the next book I'm going to share with you. I was just on vacation, and so I was like sitting on the beach, so I read like 2 2.5 books in the 5 days of this vacation because I just sat and read all day. It was fantastic. Anyways, here, let me take a drink of water real quick. Okay, the cousin. So, this is about 3 cousins. They're teens. They're in high school, or I think they might be seniors in high school, 17, 18-ish. They are like 3 different parents, 3 different cousins. They're like all only children, and basically they come from, you know, their family's not estranged, but they don't talk. And their grandmother is basically this like super rich mogul, lives on an island and runs like all these resorts and like has this huge fortune, I guess. Well, 20 years prior to when this book takes place, or 25 years, she writes all of her children out of the will, sends them all a letter saying, you know what you did. I guess they have no idea what she's talking about. She's just mysteriously written out of the will. And so, you know, they haven't had any contact with the grandmother since. And then, all of a sudden, the grandmother sends out a letter to all 3 of these kids, the cousins, asking them to work at her resort for the summer. And the parents make them go in hopes that they will be, you know, written back into the will and can inherit some of the fortune. And none of these cousins have ever met. Or if it was like when they were little. And none of these cousins have ever met. They all catch this ferry over to the island, and things are not as they seem. It's basically just like this big mystery of like, you know, how she sent home a letter that said, you know what you did. It's basically them like striving to find out what happens and what their parents did. And they're living on this island and working at this resort and getting to know each other and exchanging family stories. And it is like, I mean, it's a mystery for sure. On the back it says that families keep the best secrets, even from each other. Wait, this is funny. It says a must-read thriller if you love sharp objects. Well, that makes sense. Anyways, when I was on vacation, I brought this book and then 2 others, but the 2 others I brought were more serious. Like one was historical fiction and one was more like a classic. And I was like, these are not beach reads, like I want some drama. So I went to Walmart and picked both of these up. I'll talk about this one in a minute. On a whim. Having no idea if I'd like them, but just figuring, you know, they're both New York Times bestsellers, which is what I tend to go for, and they're thrillers, mysteries, and again, that's what I like, so I thought they would be good picks. And this is good. It is definitely, it's YA, it's young adult, which I don't usually read, so it was a little bit, just a little bit more juvenile. The way it was written, and the main characters were high school kids. Not that I can't connect to that, but I'm not necessarily that far out of high school. It's only been a few years. So it's not that I couldn't, well, it is, I couldn't really relate to the characters, but I really liked the plot. So again, the writing is a little more juvenile than I normally go for, but I liked it. It was a good story, it was a good twist. I read it in a day on the beach. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend it if you're a little bit younger. Like, I know my sister's watching this, Lily, you can borrow this if you want. She's in high school, so she might love it. But anyways, yeah, it was good. There's like photos of like real people in here, so I wonder if they're making it into a movie or a show. So I'll have to look into that. But it was good. I would give it like a 3 out of 5. Which sounds like it's not good, but no, that's a good score. Like, I like the plot. It just was a little kiddish for me. But that's on me. I mean, if I would have just read the back, I would know that it was real. So that's my bad. But again, I read it in a day. Obviously, I liked it. So, last book, which I just finished like 2 days ago. Oh, this is so good. The Woman in the Window by A.J. Thornton. this one they are making into a movie, so I'll just see when that's coming out. And again, I'm not going to read the back because I literally just finished it, so I'll just tell you about it. And again, this one I read in a day. How many pages is it? It's a lot, like 450, I think. 427. Amazing. Okay, so this is about Anna, who lives alone in a suburban neighborhood, and she has a pretty bad case of agoraphobia. So basically, she doesn't leave her house at all. I guess they said that she hasn't left her house in 10 months, I think it is. And basically, she gets drunk a lot. She has a pretty severe alcohol issue. She's on a ton of medications for mental health related things related to her phobia and disorders. So she's always mixing wine and pills, so it's definitely, she has lots of interesting experiences, but the main thing about Anna is that she spies on her neighbors. And when I say spies on her neighbors, I mean she sits and takes pictures, she keeps logs of when they come and go, she knows everything about everybody, and I guess it's because she doesn't leave her house, so she doesn't have interactions with people, so I think she might do it out of like loneliness. But basically a new family moved into a house across the street, and there's some shady stuff going on with the family. I'm not going to get into too much detail because I want you to read it and I don't want to spoil anything, but basically her spine starts to really get her in trouble. It just is. It's just good. It even says, so there's a quote from Stephen King on the back about the book. It says, "The Woman in the Window is one of those rare books that really is unput-downable." There's more to it, but that's, yeah. I mean, this was like, I was glued to this. Like, I wanted to wake up early so I could start reading it. So good. I'm trying to make my boyfriend read it next. It's incredible. I'd recommend it to anybody. Again, small town, mystery, crime. I like what I like. I'm gonna give this one, do I want to give it 5 stars? I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars because there were parts of it that were not bad, but she lives alone, so there are parts of it where I'm like, okay, we get it. Like, she watches a lot of old movies and she quotes them a lot, and there's a lot of like descriptions about the old movies, and that to me just kind of like took away from the rest of it, so I could do without that. But regardless, I loved it, so I'm gonna go with 4.5 out of 5 stars. Check this one out. So that's all of them. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 books. 8 books I just talked about. It's a lot. So I know this is a longer video. If you're still here, thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me. Let me know if you've read any of these books, or let me know what book you've been loving. Give me recommendations, etc. Thank you so much for watching. I am going to try to not be so absent, and try to get back to posting regularly. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you guys again soon. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy. You are loved. You are loved. You are loved. I will see you guys